Alright, I'm going to do a couple little clips here of me putting the new ExxPower battery in my golf cart, in case that helps anybody down the road, because there's, it doesn't come with any brackets or really any mounting hardware, so to speak. Really none at all, actually. Not like the bolt systems and, all the other guys that, kind of give you more of like a custom fit. This thing's a little bit more universal. So what I did was I took a couple sheets of the foam. Now, one of these had, little strips of extra shit around the edges. So I had previously modified my RXV battery tray and cut the corner walls out so that it was flat. And that way I originally had two Uno batteries side by side back here. Well, obviously those both failed. Until I'm still sore about it because I keep bringing it up. In any case, that's what it was modified for. So I want the new battery to be able to sit back as far as possible as well. That way I have a little bit more room up here in the front for, cargo and shit like that. So putting these two little sheets there fits about perfectly. It's a little bit higher, but once you stick 100 pounds on this thing, I'm sure it's fine, and then I'm going to strap it in. But you could use a piece of plywood across there, whatever. I used my little, vibrating buzz saw thing to cut the little corner walls out so I can stuff the batteries further back. That might be a, added little bonus other guys can do to free up some space down in here, for extra cargo, things like that. Let's see. Now I'm going to try to plunk the battery in and see kind of where it fits. All right. I would strongly advise... Oh, my back is gonna freaking hate me later today. It already does. Having a second person to help you lift that thing in there. I did it myself. It's not the funnest thing in the world. It's 100 something pounds, 110 pounds. It's a lot to get in there. Grab a buddy. But interesting little thing. I mean, I would prefer to have on the driver's side, my connections and controls, because the cord that comes off the charger is not very long, and I like to keep the charger right here because that's also where my Noco power plug is that's gonna go to the charger, right? They do supply one. I'm just gonna reuse the old one. They're all the same thing. Now what that's gonna mean though is I'm gonna have to have fairly longer cables going over to the controller. Could flip it around, but I've got the big hot resistor and all that fun stuff there, and it makes more sense to me to have your master shut off and different things on the driver's side of the cart. I mean, you could do it either way. I don't know, preference has it go this way, but then I'm gonna have long cables. I could flip it around, but then I'd have to mount the charger over there somewhere and take up some of my cargo space where I have this little space here. So that's what you're faced with, is that, if you have the logo facing forward, all your connection points are on the driver's side of the cart. But otherwise, when you modify the tray, cut it back a little bit, you can see that battery sinks back in there. It's literally a perfect fit in the tray when you cut those corners out. And that leaves a bunch of area there in the front for, I don't know, miscellaneous cargo and stuff. Like I have a little gear bag and things like that that goes in there, and my little Walmart basket that used to fit in there. So it made it kind of like a little handy storage area. But that's to kind of prepare you, that's the way it's set up. I figured most people are probably going to flip it around and have all the connections on that side. I mean, maybe I could come up with an extension for the charger. That might be technically the way to do it. Now, the other dilemma is these higher parts of the trays on the RXV prevent me from opening that up. So you can get out the little multi-tool buzz saw thing, one of those. You can see I was cutting something plastic. It's already got a bunch of crap on the blade. And just cut a section of that down so you can actually open the breaker box and be able to turn the breaker off. Otherwise, everything else isn't really obstructed either way. It faces, because you've got those same tab extensions over here. But those aren't really structural because it bolts in down here. They're just raised to support the original batteries that used to sit in here, because there was a battery sitting sideways right here, 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 and then one long ways back here, originally on these carts. Hopefully that helps, and I will decide which way I'm gonna, mount this thing in and fiddle fart around with it for a while, and then give you guys an update. All right, here we go. Here's another update on the ExxPower. Yeah, I haven't like bolted it down, but I trimmed my brackets a little bit to get the cables in there so I can get the door open for the breaker. It's not going to open all the way, but I can get, oh crap, there we go. I can get in there enough to turn the breaker off. Cables in there, you got to trim, these mounds down a little bit to just have enough room to get the cables through here, and I took the back part of it off. If you compare to the previous videos, you'll see, there's a little bit more plastic going on there on the RXV battery tray. But before I go tearing the floor apart and running the cable, figured I'd see what the little monitor looks like. And let me see if I can kind of set it up here. There we go. It's pretty slick. It's got an on-off. You can hear the battery kind of click. So that turns the battery on and off, interestingly enough, it seems like. Because I hear a bunch of relays click when I did that. And then home page, it's currently charging, power's on, voltage, current, all kinds of different stats. Kind of interesting. And then it's touchscreen, which is nice. So cell temp, internal temp, how many cycles are on the battery, and then a bunch of the individual cell voltages. Doesn't look like anything else does anything, so it's just those. Interesting. So a range of 42 miles is what it's saying right now. It's kind of slick, and I guess it blinks the state of charge while it's charging. I would assume is why it keeps doing that. So yeah, that's a rather slick setup. You don't have to rely on an app or a tablet or something like that mounted to be able to know what the heck's going on. It's nice to have its own little screen and a little bit of diagnostics built in. So there we go. We're charging away. The little blinky lights back there. It's charging away. That I guess will turn to green blinking once it's at 80% or more. And it's at, oh, it just hit 80. So, no, it's still blinking red. I'm sure that's what's charging on it. But yeah, I got to fashion up some cables and stuff and get the rest of it set up. But that's essentially what it's going to look like in my RXV. So far I'm pretty pleased. Another little thing to note, kind of interestingly enough, there's the Uno charger. I took their stupid sticker off of it. Again, fuck those guys. Trent and Nick. But there's like the stats off of the Uno charger, which are almost identical to the new charger. And I took a couple pictures. They are, these things are definitely made in the same factory, same case, same fittings. They're identical in every way, other than the new charger's like 98% efficient. It'll do 22 volts, a little bit higher output. There's a couple, and it has a, it's actually for a Life PO4 instead of the Minneco or, whatever the hell that is. Input current's, less than 11 amps on this. It's less than 15 amps on the new one. But as far as the directions, they're exactly the same. Safety notice is the same. So, kind of interesting that they're pretty much using the same setup. And so what I would assume that Uno did here, they had a longer cord on theirs, but then it goes down to just 2 wires. So there's probably a bunch of unused data wires inside here you know, where the new charger has way more in its bigger connector. So I'm sure this will be useful for something, you know, maybe down the road. I don't know. Charging those things back up once I figure out a BMS for them. Or I'm just going to turn them into a bunch of Ryobi batteries or something. But there you go. It's charging away. It's doing its thing. So far, so good. So far, I'm pretty impressed with it. I'll see how it runs when she's all up and running.